Just had a question from a viewer come in, and I thought I'll crack on and deal with this one. I've often said, oh, of course, these mould making frames, you can stack them on top of each other if you want to do deeper moulds. And somebody said, really? Can you? Now there are some mould making frames out there that are actually designed, they've got two of these flat edges, so of course you could clamp them on, I suppose, I don't know, but mine hasn't. Mine's the let's resin one, and it is the normal one tier one. Now I've got a pyramid here. Ah, cute. Don't know where it came from. It was lurking at my mum's. Might be my niece's even, I don't know. Anyway, I thought I'd make a pyramid from it. Now I could have done with the mould. This is where those half-size pieces again would come in handy. But we could do with a smaller, slightly smaller frame. Now, or finding the right size, you know, margarine tub or something like that to do it with. However, we're going to have a go at doing it anyway, because I kind of want to take a mould off this. What I'm going to do is, you know how I in previous videos have sealed round here onto a sheet of acetate using some an initial layer of silicone, basically. I'm going to see if we can do the same with the next layer, because my theory is we can. And you know what? I've been saying confidently, yeah, you can. Not being sure just how deep you could do that. Whether you could just go just up over that lip and it'd be okay, or whether you could really get some weight behind it. So let's see. As you know, I tend to use acetate to put this down onto, and that is simply because you don't want to be using your silicone mat, because the silicone will stick to the silicone and ruin your silicone mat, and it won't come off very easily. Whereas with this, it will come off dead easy. So all I'm going to do is mix up a tiny little bit of silicone, and we're going to just put a film round here, and then again around this top. I think what I'll do is I will get the second layer made up ready, so we're good to go. And some of you will have seen a previous video where I used spray mount on this to see if that worked. Can't get it off. I'm hoping that the silicone that I'm using this time will pull that away. I don't know. But yeah, just getting the second frame put together. Just use these little clips. These frames are brilliant. My only wish with it is that I wish they did half-size pieces. I really do. Nobody seems to. If anybody knows of a brand that does, will you let me know? Just one more piece. And then we'll try sealing these together. As I say, I have done it when it's just really only slightly into the top layer, so there's not much, you know, not much weight behind it. I'm trying to push out. But let's try a proper deep one. Now what I'm doing here is just pressing it down to make sure I've got they're both flat. Right, mix up a bit of silicone, and we'll take it from there. The point is that you need to be able to fix your mould down. Now these, your housing down, obviously, so the silicone doesn't come out to the bottom. Now the problem with these is that they do come with some really good double-sided sticky tape. That works really well. I just found it a bit fiddly and faffy. That's all. Now, I've tried spray mount, which, as I said earlier, I now can't get off the bottom of the mould. I've tried various other glues, and some of them actually react with the silicone that you're then using for your mould and mess up the curing. So the easiest answer to me seemed to be get some silicone and fix it with that. Now, okay, so this is going to be our base layer, and these pieces are actually relatively clean anyway, so I'm just going to go around with the silicone. I'm using a silicone brush, so of course, because silicone sticks to silicone, I'm going to have to be very careful to clean my brush afterwards. Try to make sure that the base is as flat as possible, although when I put it down I will give it a good press to make sure. So I'm just going all the way around like so. And then we'll be doing the same with the next piece, but we'll be going around the top of this one to put the next layer on. Yeah, I have seen pictures of these frames where they've got the lip top and bottom, which sounds like a good idea because you can then clamp, can't you? You can clamp your two layers together. However, this one doesn't do that, so we're doing it like this. Now I'm just going to go around, just quickly make sure we're all the way around, like so. Then we're going to flip it over, oops, and just plonk it down. Put it that way. There we are. And give it a good press. That's more to make sure, well, firstly to make sure I've stuck it down well, but also to make sure that the pieces are flat onto the base. Now, next then, we are going to go all the way around again. Yeah, just making sure we've gone all the way around properly. Then we're just going to sit that directly on top. Make sure it's lined up as neatly as we can so we get a nice mould of it. And again, give it a good press. Now finally, and this will sound a bit bonkers, but I'm going to fix this down, this little pyramid. It's got like a cardboardy bottom, and I'm going to fix that down with silicone as well. Now this of course will mean that we will probably end up with a thin layer of silicone to just trim away after we demold the mould. But I find that I do need to stick the items down, because otherwise you end up with maybe not a neat edge to the mould anyway. So this is how I'm going to do it. Just a very thin layer, like so. We're just making a seal, that's all. And it might as well use the silicone for that too. Again, I'm worried about getting any sort of glue in there that might inhibit the curing. So why not use a silicone? All you need to do, of course, is just go around with a sharp craft knife afterwards. But I'm going around the edge of this just to get the edge off. That might not make any difference. I'm trying to get that fairly central and press it down. Now of course when you're filling this up and you're putting your second and third layers in, you can put bungs in and things like that to sort of bulk it out so you're not using so much silicone. And you know, there's lots of things you can do, because this is going to be one solid chunk of silicone, isn't it, otherwise? So I might poke in little bottles or something like that. Little plastic bottles work really well to block in these corners to use less silicone. Right, I will see you probably in about an hour. We'll let that settle and I'll see you in an hour. Okay, back. That should be stirred. Notice I'm turning the knife. These knives have got, because they've got a flat back, you can get into the corners, and that's really important. So I've done that. Right, I'm just going to pour this in, and then I'll be back to show you what I mean about infilling for the next stage, because I think, yeah, I'll be getting to the point where that'll be worth doing. Looking at how deep this is. Just I'm wishing I'd sprayed some silicone release spray on this, but I think it'll be fine. This is a nice soft silicone. Somebody commented on my video earlier. Again, I've been catching up on my comments. I do try to reply to them all within 24 hours. And she said that she uses a firmer silicone than I do. And the reason for that is she's using it for polymer clay. So yeah, you would want a firmer silicone than that. It does come in different grades, so make sure you use one that you're comfortable with for your projects. Just make sure you look at all the product information and pick the one that's suitable for what you're doing. I like this one because it's kind of medium to soft, I suppose, which makes it really good for this sort of thing. I think I am going to make just a little bit more up, pour a bit more in, and then I'll be back for the next stage with you. As you can see, this is all solidified. Now I'm going to put these little bottles in to create like voids all around the base, just to, well, it saves silicone and it also makes it a bit easier to demold. I've got some more bottles to see if I can fit some more in. I mean, you can do quite a bit of this if you want. I could have done it while the silicone was a bit shallower too, but I didn't. So what we're going to do now is just top it up, and then it's just a waiting game for it all to cure. So here we go again. More silicone. So as you can see, this is taking quite a lot of silicone. The more voids you create by sticking things in it like this, the more silicone you'll save. It also makes it easier to demold. However, don't go too mad, because otherwise there'll be no substance to your mould. Of course, the other useful thing you can do is save up any leftover bits of silicone from, you know, failed attempts at making moulds, or moulds that are well past their use by date. You can chuck chunks of bits of silicone in as well. I do that. I cut up any old moulds, and if I'm just making moulds for myself and I'm not demoing or anything, all sorts can go in. Of course, you can dye your mould as well. You could dye the silicone. You could put a little bit of glitter in it. You can have fun with it, really. I tend to leave them clear just in case I want to use UV with it, but having said that, silicone this thick, I'm unlikely to ever want to use UV with it. Who knows? And I think the UV, when it's this thick, I think the UV would struggle to go through it anyway. So I'm just going to stir this up, make sure it's thoroughly stirred. Back with you in a moment. Now, whether this will be enough to fill it, who knows? We'll see in a minute. So obviously you want, especially with a pointy one like this, you want a reasonable amount of depth below it. When we turn it over, yeah, it's going to need a bit more. This is using an awful lot of silicone, so you can see why you would want to save on your silicone. Now look, I'm going to end up with a chunk in the bottom of here, so I should be pulling that out and putting that in. What else have we got? Oh yeah, there's a bung. That's a chunk left over from something else that I could chuck in. I probably need to cut it up first because there isn't really room in there, but you get the idea. Actually, let's do that. Let's do it. Silicone does cut quite easily with a craft knife. And there we go, the last lot going in, I think. God, I'm still not up over that point. This pyramid's bigger than I thought. Let's see how much it is once this pot's empty. So yeah, then I'm going to leave it. I mean, theoretically, it will cure within a couple of hours, this stuff, but particularly for the last batch going in, I tend to leave it a good long time. Let it really, really solidify. Yeah, it's just going to need a bit more. So probably, you know what, I'll probably leave it overnight now. It is, what time is it now? It is about 7 o'clock here in the UK. So yeah, I think I'll demold it in the morning. I'll just leave it, let it really, really, really solidify. Let it go as hard as it's going to. There's a lot of silicone to cure here, isn't it? Right, I will see you in the morning for the demold of the mould. Right then, as you can see, I had a bit of leakage, but it didn't get onto my favourite silicone mat. But this will, yeah, it's come from the bottom as well, not there. That's odd. Anyway, this will be used as, obviously, as infilling for my next bit of mould making. This has firmed up really well now. It's overnight. I left it for ages and ages and ages. So I'm just going to pull the acetate away. Actually, first thing I'll do, I'll go and tip the water out. Back in a moment. Because obviously we don't want the water going everywhere when I tip it upside down to pull this off. Now, usually it'll come away easier than this. I think there's still some of the... Oh, it did leak quite a bit. No, that's unusual. It leaked from the bottom. You'll have seen in my other video... Ah, that's why. No, some of it has come from the top. Right. You'll have seen in some of my other videos, when you're just doing a one-tier one, the silicone trick works really well. Looks like it worked reasonably well on the 2 tiers. There's a little bit of leakage, so the silicone trick for the join, it did work. Not 100%, but you know what? Good enough. But yeah, that's what it is. That's why it's come out so thick. It wasn't the base, it was from this join. So yeah, I think we can give it a thumbs up. It did work. And we can see that the layer that I put onto the bottom of the little pyramid has worked. Little trick for you, if you're going to have to trim any away, I find it easier while it's still in the mould housing. Certainly while it's still in the mould, but the housing keeps it nice and stable. So there's going to be a little trim to do here. You see what I mean? That's a lot easier than doing it when it comes out of the mould. Because when we demould this, it'll take that little bit of silicone with it, mostly. Or at least it will be loosened enough to make it really easy to get out. But yeah, I've spent ages sort of trimming moulds and ending up with sort of scruffy edges, and then realising actually you can get a nicer finish once it's, if you do it while it's still in there. So you can trim off any leftovers afterwards. Right, the next part will be to take the outer housing off, because you're taking all the pressure off. That's holding it together, and any little bits that have gone in between, pull those off as well, pop them in your pot. You can do a little tidy afterwards, but you shouldn't need to do too much tidying really. This mould housing does such a good job. They're not even expensive. I can remember I kept looking at these and thinking, oh, is it worth it, is it worth it? And then realising, I think, was it about £15 or something? Obviously, I was so impressed I got 2 sets. I mean, it's such a simple idea. There's a few brands that do them, but I went for the Let Resin one because I was buying a load of other stuff from Let Resin at the time, and it's great. Like I said, I would like to make some suggestions to them about a further development of it, though. So you've just got a little bit where the join was, because obviously we did put silicone around there anyway. Now, the first time I did this, I panicked. I thought, they're not going to come out. Oh, yeah, there is water in them. They're not going to come out. And then I realised that if you just give them a wiggle and do this, they just come out that easily. Now, the reason I use little bottles, plastic is great. It comes away from moulds really easily. You could also, of course, spray them with a bit of silicone release spray or something like that. Oh, my mat's sliding around. Now, I could have gone crazier with bottles and made more voids, but look, that is how much silicone we've saved, and trust me, it will make the mould even more flexible, because this is very bendy silicone anyway. But because there's just so much bulk of it, a bit more bend is a good thing. It'll make it easier to get your original out as well. You see what I'm doing here? I'm just going around with my little knife, trimming away any little surplus bits. I'll do that a bit more neatly later. But yeah, now what you could do is fill those up with resin, and I might do that next time I've got some spare resin, and that will get rid of the need for the bottles. I can use bungs, resin bungs, but I have to say the bottles, because they're squishy, they come out really easy, so I do kind of like using them. All right, let's have a look at how our mould has ended up. So that is quite a clean finish. Obviously you can see the joins, doesn't matter, it's mould. But you can see the joins where the panels of the former sat. But it looks so uniform and so neat. I'll give it a good wipe over in a bit. Don't know why, because it is just the mould, isn't it? But I do like my moulds to look nice. There we are. So I'm going to put these bottles of water somewhere else before I knock them all over. But yeah, because we've got that extra give in the mould, it should make this part a lot easier. So I tend to loosen things first, and then we should be able to just go in and go, yeah, there you go. And that extra give in the silicone has really helped with that. Now, and because I trimmed it, you can see I trimmed the edges while it was in the mould. I could have done it more thoroughly. There's just a little bit left here, but you can just pull it away. That's the easiest way to do it. Pull it at sort of 45 degrees and then go along with your knife like that. Then you're not cutting into the shape of the mould. Sorted. Right, should we have a go? Should we chuck something in it? I'm going to get my PPE all organised, put all this away, and we'll chuck some silicone in there. Okay, so we've got our finished mould. Now, I normally let them breathe for a little while after I've pulled them out of the housing and everything, but as this has been overnight and this silicone, frankly, it cures in just a couple of hours or so anyway. This is well and truly firmed up. So let's get some resin mixed up and see what this looks like. And the resin I'm going to use is a deep pour one, because that's pretty deep. The one I use for most things is the Apex High Gloss. Apex seems appropriate, doesn't it? Yeah, and that's good for up to 3 centimetres, although I have taken it up to 5. I'm not going to risk it on this occasion. I'm just going to go straight in with the deep pour. Okay, let's talk deep pour resin. I'm going for the Apex Deep Cast, which is from Just For You online. Don't forget I've got a discount code for you for this. I will put the I'll put that down in the comments for you. Not in the comments, you know what I mean, in the description thingy doobry bob. Right, now that's fluid ounces, that's more numbers. Is that millilitres? Yeah. Numbers don't mean a lot to me. All I need now is that this is 2 to 1, which makes my brain hurt. However, I do know some bits. I can do some bits of maths. So I'm going for 60 millilitres of the hardener. It's easy to tell which way around it is. The hardener is part B usually, but Apex actually say on it hardener. They don't do part A and part B. They do resin and hardener, so you know which is which. And also one bottle's half the size of the other. That's a bit of a giveaway. But look, bubble-free finish. I can verify that. Up to 30 centimetres. That's a fair old depth. The only thing you have to bear in mind is it does take a lot longer to cure. It's a lot runnier as well. Now I like actually using deep cast resins, deep pour rather, for all sorts of things, because although it takes longer to cure, it's worth bearing with it because it degasses so beautifully without any hassle. And also, if you're doing something that there's a lot of fine detail, it does kind of, yeah, it works really, really well. It gets into all the nooks and crannies. So anything that's, if you've got any moulds that are a bit prone to bubbles, it's a good way to go. Right, we're stirring away. I'll be back with you shortly. Okay, I'm back and I've just had a brainwave. I think what I'm going to do is go in with some floating powder. This one's from Just For You online. Let's see how metallic we can make this. This one's called Spiced Gold. So let's give this a try. So resin is pretty much mixed up. This I am just going to brush all over the inside. Now one thing you will find, you know how some silicone mould, we can see all the detail now. Some silicone moulds you can brush pigment powders and metallic powders and chameleon and all the other sort of, oh, let's try a chameleon one next actually, that's a good idea. And some it won't stick and it doesn't work. Now this silicone always works. Well, every time I've used it, it works. Let's word it like that. I've never had it not work. Was that a double negative? I think it was. I think it was. It's just lovely silicone. As you know, Let's Resin do send this to me now. I am eternally grateful because I was spending a blinking fortune on silicone because I use so much. And this is always the one I use by choice. Now, if you haven't done much mould making before, a little tip for you. Let's Resin do a lovely little starter kit. It's got everything you need. Look at this. This is gorgeous, isn't it? Look at that. Ooh. I'm going to fill it up with it as well, you see. Yeah, they do everything you need in this lovely little starter kit. So if you haven't done your mould making before, that's what I'd recommend. I often do this, you know. I buy starter kits because I think, although they look expensive initially for a small amount, because it gets you started, you get everything you could possibly need to do your projects. You know where you are then, and then in future, you know, you can just buy the bits you need and so on. But your starter kit, you will find you'll use everything, except for me, the gloves, because I must have really small hands. But everything else that comes with it, the pots, the stirrers, everything, you're straight in there, and it's just such an easy way to get going. Now, even now, occasionally I will buy a starter kit because I think, oh, I've run out of pots, or I've run out of something else that comes in the starter kit. And I look at it and think, you know what, another nice little starter kit would be great. Right, that's well mixed in now. As you can see, it's very metallic. Don't know if this is enough resin, obviously. There's 118 mils there. Just because my math, oh look, that's way too much. But that was some numbers that my maths could handle. Perhaps I could have gone for 150. There, right up to the top. Now, it's going to need to do some debubbling. I should have made sure I'd gone right into the tip first. Oh, look how that surface is going. Isn't that gorgeous? Let's hope it's gone right into the tip. But because I've used such a low viscosity resin, it should do. Pyramids, the tips are notoriously annoying, so I hope so. Look at that all pulling in. Right, look, I've got loads left. How much is left? Yeah, so this pyramid I think I would have got away with, instead of 180, I would have got away with, look at me doing maths. There's still 50 left in there, 180, so it's 130. I did maths. So it used 130. Now that's where I would have struggled, because that's not a nice easy number for me to divide down. I'd have to get Mark to do that for me. Don't laugh, I can't help it. I'm going to give that a bit of a torch on the surface. I have domed it very slightly because I know I'm going to lose a bit when the bubbles come up. And I need to find something to chuck this in. I know what, say we make yet another frog. There's quite a lot. That would be too much for a frog, I don't know. Whatever, let's make a frog. Let's have a satin finish frog. I need to make another gloss finish mould. Back for the demould of this. Wish me luck, folks. Demould time. First thing I'm going to do is loosen around the edges. I have been round once already. I don't know how easy or hard this is going to be to demould, but having these holes in the back should give it even more give. Oh, that easy to demould. Right. Oh, look at that. Now, these metallic powders, they are gorgeous. Now, if you remember with this, I painted the metallic powder on first, then actually filled it with the mix of the metallic powder, and that is what you get. I say. Now, obviously, it's not going to be as metallic as that. That's got an actual coating on it somehow, I think. Nope, it actually is metal. That'll be why. But look at that. Isn't that lovely? Well, there you go. Another little mould making video. You keep asking me for mould making videos. You're getting them. Now, this mould, I am going, I don't know. Is there any interest? If there's some interest, I'll get these stocked in my shop. I will try to, they're going to be heavy. The postage isn't going to be cheap. In the UK, it won't be, it'll be fine. Sending it abroad, yeah, it's not going to be a cheap exercise. If I do it again, I'll try and put some more voids in. Maybe I could get some in between here to lighten it even more. But it kind of is what it is. So it's going to be, unless I can cut away the corners or something, but then it won't stand up as well. Don't know, it's not going to be a cheap one to post, particularly abroad. I can't really do a lot about that, I don't think, without losing some of the integrity of the mould. So anyway, I could put it in the shop because now I've got my masters, I can replicate this fairly easily. So let me know, folks, if you would like one. Oh, these will be made to order. Most of my moulds are, to be fair. But let me know if you want one. So anyway, verdicts on things. Silicone, this is stuff I've used before. Silicone, awesome. Mould making frame, awesome. Metallic powders from Just For You Online. It's the first time I've actually used them quite like that, by brushing it on and then filling with the gold as well. Impressed. That's lovely. So I'll put your links for the resin as well, the metallic powder, the silicone if you want to have a go at making your own moulds, and the frame. I'll put all the links for all of that lot so you can get where so you know where to go and buy them down below. Don't forget, I've got discount codes for Let's Resin, for the silicone, and for all of the stuff from Just For You Online as well. And for the mould frame thingy. So yes, I've got discount codes for the whole lot. I'll make sure that's all down in the description for you below. All right. If you've liked this, you know the routine. It really helps me if you would just give this video a thumbs up. If you can pop me a comment or something, let me know what you think. That also helps me out a huge amount. And yeah, helps my channel to grow and get out to more people. So thank you very much, those who are already doing that. Really appreciate it. And hugs all round, as I often say in live chat. Hugs all round. And I will see you for the next video. Thank you, everyone. Bye.